We've got Bruce here today. It's good to see you back. So, and Beth will be here shortly, I'm sure. And the other two, I have no idea, but I'm sure they will be here. So, Amber and Umberto. Yeah. So funny because if I don't look at the list, Anyway. Okay, so announcements. Do we have any?
Dave.
Yeah.
Dave.
Next Friday night, we are showing Dave. I can't wait. Anyway, so in celebration from... yeah, I know. I think we will want to vote
I'm
for
in
Dave.
your camp.
And then on Election Day, we're going to have the center open between 9 and 6 if anybody wants to come and just hold consciousness or have a prayer or meditate or whatever. We're just going to keep it open from 9 to 6 on Election Day. And that's all we have right now, right?
For the moment, yeah.
For the moment. Anyway, so let's get started. Do you want to pray in? Because I always pray in. Yes. Why don't you pray in?
I do. Okay. Hello, Janet. Hello, darling. Hello, Jamie. I am too. Usually I'm a closer, but today I'll be an opener. Yeah. Let's just take a moment to just be. With no expectations. Really nothing that has to be done except to just bathe in and marinate in this beautiful, beautiful moment called now. And so I am so grateful. I start with gratitude before anything. This gratitude of the awareness of who and what I am, and that is spirit, personified as this personality called Patrick, but way beyond that, at the very center of who I am is spirit. And with that, I just say thank you again. And as I know this to be the absolute truth of who I am, that I am the all that is all, because that is who and what is me at all times, is every single person in this room, everything seen and not seen in the universal flow of life is God, is good, call it whatever you want, because it is everything. So what I know about tonight is that it unfolds easily, effortlessly, lovingly, and that whatever needs to be known has really already been known, and the limitless and the timelessness of spirit, of the quantum field itself. So I know that tonight is good. I call it good. I claim it good. I know that it is good. I embrace it. I command it from the very, very depths of my soul. And so with that, I know that we can go forward with confidence, knowing that this evening has already been deemed successful, right here, right now. And with gratitude just overflowing, overpouring into everything, seen and unseen, I just say thank you, mahalo, mahalo. And I release my word knowing it will not return to me void, and I release it as the law of my being, which already guarantees it absolute success. And with that, we affirm, and so it is. You are welcome. Hello, Beth. Welcome back to the island of Kauai.
All healthy.
All healthy and wealthy and wise.
Okay, so first thing I want to do is check in with the treatments you did last time, the ones that were on this paper. I want to know how you did with that and how you felt about writing it, just what you wrote about, you know, how it unfolded for you, anything like that that you can, if you had trouble with your declaration, because the other stuff was all there for you, but yeah, I want to, and I would love to hear some of the declarations so I can hear what they sounded like, so to see what you did. So does anybody want to volunteer? Unless it's just so personal you can't. Nobody wants to volunteer? Ron Stover?
Yeah, I didn't bring it with me, but you know what? It was so intense that I remember it. So it was, I am happy, healthy, and prosperous. So that's what my whole treatment was for.
that work for you?
And it took me a while to write it. It still doesn't come naturally. You just like, and I'm like thinking about it still.
The reason,
Well, I was born in the middle of a treatment, so I was not kidding.
no, the reason is because when treatments start to get better and easier for you is when you let go and just don't try to make up the words yourself. Just allow them to flow through you without judging them, and because that's when they're truly coming from within, from spirit. Whereas sometimes our analytical mind gets in the way, and we think we have to have the right words or whatever, and we're not really speaking from that place. But when we start to speak from that place, then it just kind of flows. It does flow.
It
And-
becomes a
And
conversation.
it's never, ever about the
communion.
words anyway. It's always about the feeling behind it. It's not about whether you use the most eloquent words. It's about the power of the feeling, right? I think we've learned that so far in here.
I mean,
So-
Jesus, Master Jesus, for whatever his methods were, he only really had 2 steps. It was thank you and get up and walk. You know, I mean, it was done. Once you give thanks, that was his 2, right? I said, I give thanks. Now get up. Because that's how confident. But if you're not as confident, I'll use 5 or sometimes 7. But I just think that it's important to remember that that is the power of it. It's the power of the Word, and the Word is God, good, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Anybody else? Did you, Dara? Go ahead.
It just kept getting simpler and simpler, more and more focused for me. Every step became just one sentence, and my affirmation was, I'm loved, I'm free, I'm home, I'm one. And all the rest of it just really doesn't matter. And when I did that, my days were amazing, and I had a day-to-day where I didn't take the time to do that, and oh my God. So as simple as it is, just it changes the whole day for me.
Yeah, Adora, that's a really good point. It's not about, oh, I forgot to say my prayer, so I get punished for the day. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with you not taking the moment, the time to center. To say I'm important enough to remember who I am so that I can go through my day. But if we jump up and we're like rushing to do that, then we go, well, how come things aren't working out? Your prayer could simply be, I'm here. I'm here. Now let's move forward. That was perfect timing, wasn't it?
It was. It was perfect.
Right into you.
I had some help with this, I have to admit. But mine is, I know. There are details to work out, but I have this. And I told that I said that out loud when a couple of people asked me about, well, what's going to happen? What's going on? I said, I know. I know exactly what I want. There are a couple details still to work out, but I've got it.
Yeah.
And they went, oh, how graceful. That's actually what she said.
Oh, yeah.
And in the realm of spirit, those details are already worked out. You just don't maybe not have them right now. That's great. So you know you've got it. So definitely, that's great. Yay.
Well, I missed last week, but I had some realizations anyway, and the realization is that I've been living on Kauai full time for about 1.5 years, and I'm really starting a new life. I've always been fixated on the logistics of moving and transplanting and arranging furniture, visits from friends, and then I don't know why it took so long, but it just dawned on me that I'm starting a whole new life here. And I think that's in line with.
That's a good affirmation.
Yeah.
I encourage you, though, to do it. Or I think I don't know if you got this or not, but I'm going to give it to you. It says second spiritual mind trio. It doesn't matter.
He probably didn't get it because he
It's
was
the same thing, yeah. I thought I sent it to everybody.
But that's a good point that Bruce is making as well. Sometimes we're so busy moving to the next thing and that we forget to acknowledge where we are and where we've come from. I said that we were in a practitioner meeting yesterday, and we're having some practitioners join us from another center for various reasons, but they don't live here, they live in California. But I was saying we really do need to take a moment to stop and acknowledge that we've been through something that has never been through in the history of man as far as a world pandemic. And we have to, before we move to the next thing and get going, to really sit there and say, wow, we're pretty powerful people. We're still sitting here in this room, and we need to take that moment to go, this is a new life now. Doesn't have to be a new life that's bad, a new life that's absolutely new. So thank you for that reminder.
Anybody else? We're talking about the treatments you did.
So in part of my focus on harmony, this week was a continuation of treating for the divine guidance and the trust in the divine guidance. And so some of my declarations were that I am guided, guarded, and protected. That was throughout all of my treatments this week and has been for the last few weeks. That I have access to all of the wisdom, and I have confidence and trust in spirit, and that I am making all the right decisions at all of the right times, and that life is unfolding perfectly as it is already done in the mind of God. So I've been trying to practice that.
Good deal. Great. Anybody else? Humberto?
Roberto?
So I was registering that this week was so busy packed with so many things that I didn't have time to do my practices. But the funny thing is, as each of the problems was coming up, I did these spiritual mind treatments. And so I didn't go to check the papers to see what I was supposed to be doing, but I was doing these spiritual mind treatments because everything was so upside down in my life. In terms of my son and his willingness to go to school or not, because he sees it as not a valid experience, given what he could be doing, and a few other things like whether he would wash his dishes or whether he would wash his clothes and that sort of thing. And so I did the treatments for each of those events, and then he woke up in the morning and he got ready. I didn't have to carry him out of bed. And he got himself ready for school, and I made a deal with him that if he did his clothes, then I would buy him more clothes online instead of at the stores the way I had wanted to do it, because it's half the price if you start here and then you go online. So he said okay, and so he did wash his clothes. And then, without asking, he washed his dishes. So I was watching all of this happening, and recognizing only at the end when I was checking back to see what else we needed to do for homework that I had actually done the homework.
Yeah, this is a general rule. Just be careful when you're treating for someone else, that you're not trying to control what they do, because you're really treating your own mind about them. When you start to think differently about the person, and you start to, affirm in your own mind that this person is whole or healthy, or is his or her life is unfolding perfectly, and they are guided, they're directed, instead of like specific things like I want my son to clean his clothes. I know my son is always in the flow of cleanliness. I know my son is always, because you're treating your own mind. Does that make sense? So just when you're doing that, make sure, because you don't want to get into controlling other people or trying to control their experience. You're just controlling your own mind about them. And when you change your mind about them, then something shifts and things show up like that. So I'm not saying that's what you were doing, but I'm just saying as a general note when you're treating for other people. So
Well, let's stay on that for a second. So why then do you believe that your son got up and did these things?
Because a couple of weeks ago, I was recognizing, I guess, through some of the influence of practice, that I was starting to feel really resentful and thinking negative thoughts with him, and so I started doing a wholesale change about that. So it's interesting that you would mention that, because that was what I saw that I needed to do, because it was reminding me, hey, your practice isn't, just to stay with us. We need to change this, because he's reflecting, something you're thinking. And so I did this wholesale change where I was seeing him, oh, he's so gifted, he's so, he's so loving, he's so, he's so helpful. And it was just, I didn't know that it was part of this particularly. It was just something that came to me that I was recognizing, oh, I really, Ho'oponopono isn't that, it's you do it a different way. And so somehow I confluenced into that way of doing it. So I think that's how it happened.
well, Ho'oponopono is very similar to treatment because you're treating your own mind about the situation. You're not trying to change the other people. You're saying, what in me do I need to release in order to have, the experience I want to have, or in order to heal the situation, because there's a part of me that's projecting that. That's what I mean when I do Ho'oponopono. That's what I when I read all about Dr. Yulen and that whole thing about the prison and everything, it was what in me needs to be released to see this situation differently,
Right.
and to bless it, and to bless myself, basically, and to forgive myself for what created it within me. So that's yeah.
Well, I figured
Yeah.
it did happen. So scientifically, let's look at it as a scientist would, that his behavior changed. Moen's, and that changed. So we have to now scientifically say, how did that change? I didn't go poof, poof, and you're going to do as I say, but something in your consciousness, and what it really is, and guilty as charged as many times in my life. Once we take the stranglehold off of what we think we want, and that's the stranglehold. Why doesn't he do his clothes? Why doesn't he do this? Why won't he be the little kid next door? Why is he doing what everybody else is over? And it's strangling it. So of course they're going to act exactly that way. Now that doesn't mean you don't discipline and that you don't make decisions as a parent. It just means that if it's not working, it's nobody's fault. It's just a shift, like you said, in attitude for anything. Because Rita's absolutely right. We cannot, treat for you to be the way I want you to be. We can't. Even if it's our children, if it's our partners, it doesn't matter. Our animals, it doesn't matter.
What was funny was it was so dramatic.
Right.
So, so completely 180 degrees. And I wasn't totally, okay, step one, step two. It was something that happened to me where I had a realization, and that shifted. And then I also started doing the treatments. I was doing the actual, and not just for him, but for a few things. And that was one that was right in front of me. I was like, why? Why all of a sudden, is he so cooperative? And then I recognized.
Yeah.
So that's it. Consciousness,
great.
consciousness, and then consciousness on top of that. It's just shifting that
Okay. The prayer, not the prayer, the
principle.
that you did was, okay, Rita. Yeah, the one that's affirmative prayer and empowered consciousness, yeah. So did anybody work with this? We were supposed to just read
Give a
it
little refresher.
and then didn't recognize it during the week and see how it showed up for us. So the infinite nature of God, all conceivable good, is eternally available. Yeah, blah, 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 blah.
Well, since we did Jamie, what was the class we did together last year that was so powerful here with Rita?
Self-mastery.
Self-mastery, where I didn't really have something. I didn't have anything I wanted to focus on other than being one with God, and that's been true for me for a while. So when I was reading this, the aha I got, and then man, it just has left me so free, was the aha I got in meditation, is that anything I've been really proud about in myself is a divine quality where I allowed God to express through me. And anything that I desire in my life is actually a divine expression that God wants to fulfill through me. Now, when I hold those two things in my awareness, I don't have to control shit. I can let go of controlling anything and just keep my attention on that most simple thing. You know, am I connecting in my heart to Source?
Beautiful.
Is everyone aware that we can't control it, even though we dream about it, think
We like
about
to.
it, love it, put a lot of energy into it? Are we real? I mean, it's a really good question. I've been, in the last couple of weeks, or even maybe the last week, I've been asking some really important questions to myself. Like on Sunday, why is not so important if we're going to die, but why do I want to live? And the same thing with this. Am I really, really at a point in my life where I can really say, I don't have to control? It's a toughie. We were taught, we were programmed that if you don't control, you're not safe. If I can't get you to behave the way that you should be behaving, because then if you behave that way, I'll feel safe and I'll feel comfortable and I'll feel this. And you need to behave that way. And so just recently I'm saying that in my treatments is that it's not about being out of control because you don't have control. It's about being in alignment, being balanced, to say, this makes me feel like I'm really out of control right now, and my instinct is to control it so that I can feel safe. And so it's just about not even retraining, it's just about saying, whoa, guess what? I don't think I'm ever going to be able to control you. I'm never going to be able to control what the island does, the mayor does, our government does. Only thing that I can do is be here and be does that, and it brings me peace when I can actually live there. And then until all of a sudden, until you're off a piece, and then you're starting to get back into the control. But it makes perfect sense why we are control freaks. It makes complete sense, but it doesn't mean that it's working. So, food for thought.
Who else?
For what? Oh, the
This.
principal.
Yeah. How did it show up for you? Jamie, you look like you want to say something, but
Yeah,
you're...
I always know. I always know.
like the cross.
But now I don't touch your hands anymore.
I've been consciously trying not to do that.
Yeah,
Because I'll do this.
Yeah, and then I go, no, she's up to something now. She's trying to uncontrol me.
So treatment has been really, really important for me, especially going through practitioner classes. And so I treat very, very often. This process is throughout my day and as a constant. And one thing that did happen this week is I actually partook in a spiritual treatment session with one of our practitioners here at the center. And I wasn't I made the appointment knowing that I wanted to work on something, but I wasn't really fully aware yet what it was exactly until I got into the room and it just unfolded perfectly, right? And I had been working very hard on this idea. Well, I don't want to say working very hard, but I had been working diligently on this idea of divine guidance. And so I went through this treatment center and just it flowed out just perfectly. And the treatment matched it perfectly to where I felt completely freed. And it was all about this trust in the divine guidance, follow the divine guidance, and trust that if I can trust spirit with things like prosperity, after doing the 40-day prosperity workshop, I was like, oh, abundance is showing up in my life. Like I got a roommate when I really needed a roommate to help with bills. It showed up. My rent was lowered for the remainder of the year because of COVID. And then I got a notice from my landlord that they were lowering it again next year. It showed up. And on Monday, when I did the treatment session, the phrase, trust spirit with your relationship. And trust spirit. If you can trust spirit with abundance, can you not trust spirit with your relationship? And I was just like, I mean, obviously that seems so simple, and yet I was just like, oh my God, that's absolutely perfect. Like, I felt so relieved and light, and it's been following me throughout the day. I mean, today was a little bit of a rough start because I too did not do my normal practice and meditate. I woke up late, and usually if I don't, I'll still like do some meditation at my desk, which was another aha moment, to take the time for me and center. But I knew, throughout the day, I'm like, divine guidance, trust that I just will walk through it, even though I have so many things that I feel overwhelmed with the amount of stuff I have to do. I know that everything is going to be okay. I trust spirit. I trust that everything will unfold perfectly as it's meant to. And I will walk and know that I don't need to worry about any of those things, and how freeing that felt. Because I'm like a natural, I've been a control freak. That's part of my story in terms of my 12-step work. And even on Wednesday, I went to a meeting at in my 12-step program, and we talked about fears, in how I was somebody who didn't fear or harm people. I drank and whatever, and that was just like something for me. And little did I know that all of those things were fear-based. I was fearful of hurting people. I was fearful of hurting myself. I was fearful of what people thought about me. I was fearful of what I was thinking about other people. I was fearful of what's going to happen to me. I was fearful of what happened before. And I didn't realize all of my things, like OCD-ness and this and that, perfectionism, were all these I just needed to control all of these things because I had felt so out of control. In just that phrase, trust spirit, was like, oh, I don't have to hold on to all of this. I don't have to control it. And it's amazing how good that feels to just walk around with that idea in your mind. Trust spirit with this. That's spirit. That's it. Not that I'm relinquishing responsibility, right? I still have to walk and follow it. But it was just so that it is not my responsibility of what other people do. It is not my responsibility on what the weather is like. It is not
Right.
yeah.
It's
So
only your responsibility of your reaction to it and how you meet it. And
great.
if you come, like this is talking about, with an empowered consciousness of knowing who you are, and then trusting when you speak your word that it has to unfold perfectly. It has to. And then you get out of the way, and then you hear the right moves to make. You just, it flows through you so easily and effortlessly. And then when you fall back off, then you get back on again, right? So that's what is called spiritual practice, right? So, yeah, I love this. Who else? Anybody else did this?
I did have a bit of an experience. When I was
Make sure you're talking about this, so otherwise we'll do it something later. Go ahead.
Yeah, the main part of this that stuck with me as I read it before I left class was that, okay, so that's all the reality, but the thing that kept coming back to me during the week was every time something would come up that seemed like it was funky, I kept getting this message. The universe always says yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that's meant to me. And it was so calming to know that. It was like, it explains everything. Everything's okay because the universe is always going to say yes. And if I know that, then I've got the key to the universe. So
I have a affirmation that's the universe is always conspiring in my favor. Yeah, and so I know that whatever shows up, there's got to be a reason that is in my favor, or it wouldn't be showing up. And if it means that I'm needing to go deeper, or I'm needing to have more faith about something, or everything is all right, it's always all right because it's always conspiring in my favor. So that works for me.
And if it's always saying yes, as Umberto was saying, that's kind of
Yeah.
the freeing power, right?
Right.
Because that means when something is not happening that's setting me off my alignment, that I don't have to look at it with judgment. I just have to look at the universe has always said yes, and the universe always says yes to me. Always says yes. And so it gives me power because, and not at the beginning maybe, at the beginning it's probably making you frustrated, frantic, whatever, but if you really say yes, then it goes right back to you and you go, wow, I have the power to shift this now. Because now I'm going to have the universal flow, the law of the universe say yes to something new, something different, my new life, my new this. Oh no, I don't want, I don't choose to be frantic, but it said yes to me. Oh, so my only job is not to be frantic and to get away from frantic. My only job is to be at peace. And then the universe will say, yes, you are. May
And
I
when
show
we're, like,
you it all?
when we're treating for something, or saying this or better is also another thing, like, because you don't know, like, you might be saying, oh, I really want this, I want this in my life, but there could be something better. So, like, release the hold on it and just say this or something better. I think, yes. Anybody else? Yeah. Do you need this? Oh, you need the microphone.
Okay. That's whatever. In the morning, when I wake up, there's this beautiful waterfall that I can see and I hear. And sometimes I wake up and I'm sad. And I'm like, wow, there's no reason to be sad. And what I'm doing is having judgments of ideas, that I'm judging. And if that stays with me, it's like really negative. And so I'm really every day, every moment, a lot working on that. If I go into, and I'm being able to see a lot clearer when I do go, I'm in judgment and I'm thinking, oh, that happened, oh, whatever. And then I go, wait a minute, this is an illusion. I can just, look where I am, look what's happened, look how beautiful everything is. And then I actually, it's words, that's why I'm here. It's good to know that words can help me. It's more movement helps me. Movement and meditation and going into different part of my brain, actually. It's shifting how I'm thinking. It's just releasing any tension in my head. So for me, the physicalizing of it is the treatment. And it's really good to learn the words too, and to know that to shift. And so if I see that happening, and I can see it happening, like, okay, in the yoga studio, so when I'm teaching, I want to always be giving a treatment. So every word is positive. It's not ever a question of negativity. And so watching that, so this
And it makes sense because you're a physical artist. I mean, that's what you do. And it makes sense that when you move, you would be shifting energy. So it would be a treatment if you're, if you're all like this, and then you just move and expand, you're going to be freeing your energy. So that's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, it's not always the words. It's the feeling. Don't forget. You could it's the feeling. It's shifting the emotions. So, yeah. Great.
How's your weekly prayer going?
Oh, yeah, the weekly prayer.
You guys have your
The
weekly.
little book, the little blue
the
book.
Anybody?
I've been enjoying it myself.
Yeah.
Isn't it great?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this week I was inspired by what Adara did the week prior, which was to take a new one every day and kind of just be like show me the right, and it was so amazing how it would show up. Like divine guidance ended up showing up. I have no problems. I trust. Like all of those things ended up showing up in some way or shape or form throughout the week. And the prayers that ended up being shown to me, it was beautiful. That book is really great. Yeah, I'm gonna include that as part of my daily morning.
Yeah, it is
going
really
forward.
good. It's like a little oracle. You get to pick what's right for you that day.
So I haven't loved the prayer book. And sometimes I have a thought about, but I was brought up Jewish, and Jewish people, we don't believe some of this Bible stuff. And okay, and there's parts in it that are helpful. And I'm not even that religious. I couldn't even tell you, like, that came from the New Testament, that came from the Old Testament. But it is a little bit of resistance. And so I just wanted to say that, and just wondering, people that come from different faiths, how they kind of...
No, thank you for
Look at
bringing
that.
that up because, first of all, Ernest Holmes came from a Christian background, right? But the teaching itself, although it has some of that in it, any way we would ever look at the Bible or that is through the eyes of the metaphor. We call it the metaphysical Bible. So we would be looking at the metaphorical value of the stories of what Jesus the healer did, even stuff in things in the Old Testament. We would always be looking at it as a metaphorical story. We wouldn't be taking it literally, and we don't really study the Bible. It's mentioned in Ernest Holmes mentions it in the different texts, but as you see, as his writing got further on, it's less and less. So one day we're going to study the seminar lectures, which was one of the last things he wrote before he passed away. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's just important about, especially if you're new to the teaching. If you read something, then you'll go, oh, is that what they believe or they think? And Rita's absolutely right. But the Bible is a very, very important thing to really get clear. And that's what, when people say, like if they're coming here and they'll say, do you believe in Jesus? The answer is yes. Do you believe in Jesus as your Savior? The answer is no. For us. And I come from a Christian, and there's a lot of Christianity running through the veins of everything. But the most important thing, if we studied the Bible for any reason, it would be to be able to interpret it from a place that can serve. I'll give an example of that. The prodigal son is an amazing analogy,
in a
and I have
metaphorical
used
sense.
it my entire life. And then if you were interpreting it from a science of mind perspective, it's what we've been talking about tonight. When you turn not to God, but you turn from God to meet God, then the reason I love that story is because that energy never said anything like for the prodigal son where the kid went off and he, spent all of his time drinking and prostitutes and having a great time. And then all of a sudden, he's out of money. So what do you do when you're out of money? You go back home. Mom and dad, blew it. But what it tells us about self-love is that he turned and he came home and his father didn't care anything about that.
Right.
And no I told you so's, no any of that. So what excited me about it, because when I started hearing any Bible, I was thinking, I went to New Thought. I don't know, I'm not going back there because I came from Catholicism. So sometimes when we study the Bible or study anything, Hinduism, any of that, we study that so that we can know how to feel about it.
Well,
Yes,
and
Dara,
let me just finish one thing. And the story of the prodigal son, I'm glad you brought that one up because it's not about somebody going out and carousing and doing all this thing. What it's really about is turning away from spirit and being left out here all by yourself and trying to make it, and then deciding I want to go back. I want to know that I'm one with spirit, one with God. And then God doesn't, like Patrick said, doesn't have any judgment for us. It's just as we turn to it turns to us. I mean, that's the whole story. As we turn to the power and presence of spirit, it turns back to us and says, welcome home. So, and we feel it. But it isn't about the physical story of that story, if that makes any sense. And we have another whole interpretation of the creation story, but we won't go into that tonight. But go ahead.
Yeah, Beth, thank you for saying that, because I had my awakening happened as a result of a surgery, and I had never been to any church. But at the time, I was married to a Jewish man, and we were practicing Kabbalah more. And when I had my awakening, I became fascinated to find divine truth in whatever stream of consciousness it came, right? Yeah. So for me, I found the Bible a living stream, some of which felt alive for me and some of which was not, like the Kabbalah or the Torah and around the world. And in the prayers too, so glad you said it, I find a couple of the prayers stop me dead. And where I have resistance is the way Father is used. And it really stops me dead in my tracks, even though I've done all of this other study. And the piece that I find true in all the world's traditions is the true traditions take you in here, that God is here. So what I started doing was when I stopped judging the fact that I was having resistance, I said, you know what, somewhere in my psyche, this is not working for me. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm not going to rape myself and make myself pretend this is working. It's not working. So I stopped and I went in and I said, okay, what is the truth? What is a phrase that I can use that gets me to that true vibration? Okay? And I still can't, with all the clearing work I've done, I can't use the word Father. It just makes me go, that's not right. Do you know? But I can say source.
Right.
Do you know? I can say spirit. I found my heart was giving me other synonyms, if that makes any sense.
If you remember, our first class was to find your words for God, so that you're not using the words. I have never used Father in my whole. I can't even remember the last time I used it. Not that there's anything wrong with fathers, but no. So you find the words that work for you. That's what you do. Sorry, I know you're a father, but
We didn't mean it literally.
we didn't mean it literally. This is the baggage that people come with. Not baggage, but they come with all these back beliefs. There used to be a time, I remember one person was like, why are you talking about Jesus? I don't want to know anything about Jesus. And, and until she was able to open up and see what that really was about. And, it wasn't about what she had learned in Catholic school or whatever, or Christian school. Yes.
So I have a question, and it's controversial, and I don't mean to be disruptive, but it is my personal views. And my question is, I'll make a comment first. What I believe is, in terms of God, is that there are more intelligent life forms in the universe, many of them, thousands of more intelligent life forms. And that's where it ends for me. I don't believe in anything else.
Okay.
So what can I call it?
You can call it source. You can call it energy. Okay, so infinite intelligence. We don't think of it. It's something that is birthed everything that we are. We are it. We came from it. So it is in every cell in our body, whatever that was, whatever that impulse of creation was. So that expands across the whole universe. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, there's planets and other beings and probably way more intelligent, well-advanced life forms than we are, I'm sure. But there's nothing like outside of ourselves. It's us coming forward. It's our reflection. It's our reflection. I'm trying to
Bruce,
think of another word, but that's great.
I want to address that. That's really great. Tonight's and this is what's important. I'll tell you what's important. Important is that we address everything that's going on inside of us and not just listen to people and go, that's it. But I have two comments to make before I go to Bruce. The one thing we do have to be careful of, at least I have throughout my life, is not to let words, and I say it a lot on Sunday, to not let words or distractions be our argument for our own limitations.
Right.
For our fear of growing, our fear of moving forward. Questioning is, Ernest Holmes, of all people, he was known as the eternal question mark. When I was a kid, I asked why. That's why they wanted to kick me out of Catholic school. Why is the three persons? How do three people live in one God? Until finally they go, stop it! Stop. And because I was curious. Now, back to intelligence out of here. I certainly hope so. And I don't even hope. I certainly know that there's got to be something more intelligent than what's going on in my world right now. And that was long before any of this. So yes, I'm with you on that. The only thing that this teaching wants to remind us of and to invite us, that we do not honor false gods. And what that means is not to honor just one God, but to honor the God within. And so even with Jesus, I use his, but they quoted a man that he had been dead for all those years, and they're quoting him like it was yesterday. Does it matter to me if it was? All I know is that what he said and some of the things that were said about him work for me metaphorically in my own life, and I believe we do make miracles. So as far as intelligent life out there, I just feel like we're so protected by some energies that are just wonderful, but comes from the one energy. The only time that I would say that this teaching would not be in alignment with anything like that would be if I said, I must channel this in order to have the information to be anything that I have to give my power over to because they have more power than me. They might be more advanced in the degree of understanding than I have right here, and that's why I say I hope there is that intelligent life force, because we're pretty base a lot of times running around here. So yeah, I mean that's absolutely. What would I call it? I would call it. First of all, I'd be in such gratitude for knowing that there's an intelligent life force. But then the real bottom line is that we are the intelligent life force. We are that same power. That's where this teaching comes from. So if there's this, if tonight I went home and this wonderful intelligence appeared before me and said, I have some information for you, I'd just go, thanks. Well, at first I'd be like, whoa, and then I would go, thanks, because I could download that information. But we want to get away from having a God outside of ourselves, a power outside of ourselves, because the separation, the duality that has gone on in our evolution is the very thing that I feel has destroyed, it can destroy us. Because we are completely saying that I'm this and you're that. Once we can really look at it and say, oh my God, you're me too? But I don't like you. I don't like you. You hurt me. You did this. You did that. But you're me. Then intelligence that you're speaking of, I believe, is transformative. I mean, it will transform anything. Does that
make sense, Bruce?
Well, yeah. And that's the thing. Well, you know, no, yeah, it's not easy. I mean, I was saying this, no one ever said this was easy, and no one even said it has to be your truth. Everybody's God. We can't take away other people's gods. But what I mean is that where the scary part comes in for people that are opening up is that to take responsibility for ourselves, and in a powerful way.
Right. We're trying to lead you back to yourself.
That's it.
Not to put you on. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
No.
Right.
Like I pray to God.
Well,
outside.
it's also out there because it's it's omnipresence, everything. If I'm looking at, but everything is in here though, because I'm looking at Jamie and Jamie's part of me, so she's just a reflection of me.
And you put us under a microscope, we're all just energy,
so that's
right?
the whole thing about oneness and unity, is that we're all living in one field of energy and we're all just reflecting back and forth to each other depending on where we're at in consciousness, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of people experiencing different things right now than we are sitting in this room, all right? I mean, they're experiencing totally different things. So why is that? Why are they experiencing that and we're all sitting here having this conversation? It's got to be consciousness. It's got to be, not bad or good or less or, or more, but just where we are in our evolution and what we needed to show up as and what we needed to surround ourselves with in soul group, or I don't know. We don't know. A lot of it's mystery, right? But all I do know is that for me, that power and presence is within me and I'm waking up to it. And the more I wake up to that's what I am and that's what I'm birthed from and that's my inheritance and that's where I'm operating from, the bigger my life gets. And the more I start to understand and the more things open up. I love it when Ernest Holmes says, everybody wants to understand the words of Jesus, let's say, or Buddha or something, but we don't necessarily aren't at that elevation of their thought. So how can we understand what they're really saying, you know? So it's like we understand more and more and more as we evolve and as we grow. And I'm sure there's people greater than Buddha and greater than Jesus right now that are walking this earth. And they might include all of us in this room. I don't know. But what I'm saying is there's an eternal growth. It's an eternal evolution that's just continuing going on. And it's all happening for in here. Yes.
I just wanted, I wasn't sure if I wanted to share this, but it keeps coming back in my mind about the neuroscience part, about the reticular activating system, and you find what you're looking for. And that's so powerful about what you'd said about the universe always says yes. So if I really deeply believe, and it takes practice, that the universe always says yes, then there'll be no fear. And if we have a world with no fear, like that would be a transformed world. That would really be the transformed world. So now have the awareness of what I have consciousness of, right, in my thoughts, and then my conditioning, and then having a different thought that's higher, if you want to call it that way, in vibration, then I don't have fear. You know, there's a lot of people who have so much fear right now. And so, you know, the quicker I can see it when I see it, then I can return to that place of the lack of separation. So it's really a beautiful space to have other people who are, you know, learning how do we grasp this in our journey. And it's interesting how much of I see. I still, you know, the patterns are there. They're there, and they're subconscious patterns too. But the choice piece is here. So the neuroscience piece is what I just really wanted to
That's great.
share.
And we should be questioning everything. We should be questioning everything and coming up with our own answers. And the things that resonate to us, we should take them and expand on them. Things that don't, we should toss them off and say, that doesn't work for me right now. Maybe I'll come back to it later. But if we don't open our minds and just at least look at it, look at the different ideas, then how are we going to know what works for us, you know? We'll be closed off. We'll just be staying in our old habits. Yeah.
And what if we were in a big, I just keep going back to Bruce because now he's got me thinking about my extraterrestrial friends and my infinite intelligence now. But I feel like this is just an experiment, an incredibly wonderful experiment. How clever for infinite intelligence to put us in this form, you know, expressing itself as us, to find ourselves. So that when we find ourselves, we'll go, wow. I mean, all the movies have been written about it. I mean, that back to the Wizard of Oz's theme, that there's no place like home, that she went out into the world to find herself, and was it an illusion? Was it a dream? Was it, and to, you know, click your heels 3 times and you're back home again because you never left. And when she says, you know, how do I do this? And then Glenda says, you've always had the power. You could have went home weeks ago, months ago. You could have done this months ago. And instead of going, oh, wow, I really blew it. No, you didn't blow it. You learned about who we were. And that's a thing that we can rest assured at night. Whether or not we get any of this is just a part of what I love about this teaching is that we're not here to convince anybody of anything. And when we do, it's very exhausting, by the way. Just a FYI. Because I started in this as a minister too, like, I've got this great news, I can't wait to tell all of you. And then people are like, yeah, well, I don't know, you know, and you're like, but you know, like a little boy, you know, and I wanted to, and so when today I was running and semi-meditating while I was running, and I said, what is mine to do? Because that's a question I ask, what is mine to do? Because I was in judgment of my brothers and sisters' behavior. of tourists and things of that, just to throw that out. I was in judgment, and I'm running, going, I got to find more ways that I can confirm why I judge them and why it's right that I'm doing that. And then this wave washes over one, and it says, oh, how's that feel? And I was like, to be honest with you, like crap, I feel really justified right now. And I feel like I could really stand up and really tell you why I'm judging. And then I thought, how close to love is that? And I go, well, it's pretty about as far away as you can probably get at this moment. And I said, would you be willing to just not say that you wouldn't speak your mind, wouldn't speak what my mind is thinking, but are you willing to let them be who they are? Are you willing today, because you were driving too slow for somebody and who flipped me off, beautifully flipped me off? And I was in such shock as I looked at Rita. And we were on a very important phone call at that time of somebody really in need of something. And I looked to my side, and there the finger went up. And I went, oh, wow. Because what I wanted to do was to go, first of all, you got to be kidding. I haven't flipped off since my high school years. What the hell? You're a grown man. And blah, blah, blah. That was it. Yeah, was it you who did it? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so when it happened and they flipped me up, I was still in shock, and I told Rita, I said, I am so excited in this moment. Someone just flipped me off, and she's like, why? And I go, I don't know, because they're in their